You don't ever forget the sound of someone snapping their fingers at a flight attendant like they're summoning a pet. And you definitely don't forget it when that same hand is pointing at your mom's first-class seat, like it already belongs to them. I thought it would be a quick, uncomfortable exchange until she said the one sentence that sucked the air out of the cabin. That's when I realized this wasn't simple entitlement. This was a calculated power move. We were flying out for my mom's long overdue break. She's the type of woman who apologizes when other people bump into her. So when she surprised me by booking first class for both of us, actually laughed and asked if she'd robbed a bank, she didn't even grin. She just said, "I want one trip where I don't feel guilty for resting." That sentence hit harder than I expected. My mom has carried everyone her entire life. My dad left years ago. My younger siblings still treat her like a 24/7 help desk, and she works double shifts without ever complaining. So no, first class wasn't a luxury. It was medicine. We boarded early, settled in, and for the first time in forever, I watched her shoulders relax. She touched the seat controls like she didn't quite trust they were real. When the flight attendant offered sparkling water, my mom hesitated, glanced at me like she needed permission to enjoy it, then nodded. That's when the woman appeared. You know the type instantly. Perfect hair that's never met humidity, a massive tote bag carried like a weapon, and a face already irritated by the existence of other humans. Mid-50s, dressed like she was attending a business casual court hearing. She marched into first class with two people behind her, both around her age, dragging carry-ons like they were being punished. She stopped right beside our row and stared at my mom's seat. Not glanced, stared. Then she looked at my mom, then the seat number, then back at my mom like she crawled in through an air vent. My mom offered a polite smile. "Hi." The woman didn't respond. She leaned closer, squinted at the screen on the armrest, and said loud enough for the row behind us to hear, "Yeah, no, this isn't right." I blinked. "What?" She finally looked at me like I'd interrupted something important. "These seats are supposed to be together." My mom's smile faded, but she stayed calm. "They are. My son and I are together." The woman's nostrils flared like I'd insulted her bloodline. "Not you, us." She waved a hand behind her like she had a royal entourage. Then came the first twist. She pulled out her phone and shoved it toward my mom. Not the flight attendant, not the gate agent. My mom, like she was the manager of the plane. "See," she said, tapping the screen aggressively. "I have friends. We're traveling together. We need first class. My friends have anxiety." One of the friends gave a tiny, helpless shrug. The universal please don't drag me into this gesture. My mom opened her mouth, then closed it. I could see her default kicking in. Kindness, apology, smoothing things over, even when someone was being absurd. So I stepped in. "Ma'am, those are our assigned seats." Her eyes narrowed, and she did that smile with no warmth behind it. "Sweetie, I'm not asking. I'm explaining what's going to happen." My mom stiffened. I saw it instantly. Her shoulders creeping back up, stress rushing in like someone flipped a switch. Right then, the flight attendant approached with a cheerful, professional smile. "Hi, can I help you find your seat?" The woman snapped her fingers. Snapped, like the attendant was late, bringing her a menu. "Yes," she said. "You can. These seats need to be reassigned. My friends and I should be in first class together. I don't understand why random people are sitting here." Random people. My mom blinked like she'd been slapped. I watched the color drain from her face. Hurt first, then embarrassment, then that instinct to shrink. The attendant's smile stayed, but it tightened. "Ma'am, seats are assigned. If you have a seating issue, I can check your boarding pass." The woman didn't hand it over. She crossed her arms instead. "No, you can check theirs because my friends have a medical situation, and you're not going to separate us." Second twist. Medical situation. Delivered in the exact tone of someone who absolutely does not want follow-up questions. My mom quietly reached for her bag, already preparing to move. Because she would. Because she always does. Because peace matters more than fairness. I gently grabbed her wrist under the blanket, so the woman couldn't see. Just a small squeeze. "Don't." Not this time. The attendant repeated, still calm, I'll need to see your boarding pass. The woman scoffed. Unbelievable. You people always make this difficult. This is why I hate flying with. She stopped herself mid-sentence like she almost said something she knew would get her in trouble, then pivoted hard. Look, my friends are good people. They deserve comfort. She pointed at my mom. She looks like she'd be fine back there. My mom's eyes went glossy for half a second. She forced a smile that wasn't real. It's okay. I cut in, firm but controlled. It's not okay. She paid for this. The woman turned fully toward me. Excuse me. Do you know who I am? I almost laughed. Of course she said it. No. And I don't think the plane cares. The attendant stepped closer, voice dropping into that warning tone. Ma'am, you need to take your assigned seat so we can close the cabin door. That should have been the end. It wasn't. The woman leaned toward the attendant and said loud and proud, If you don't fix this, I'm filing a complaint with the airline and the airport authority. I'm on an HOA board. I know how this works. Third twist. She really thought that meant something at 30,000 feet. People were openly watching now. A man across the aisle froze mid-sip. Someone behind us lowered their headphones. The vibe shifted from mild annoyance to, oh wow, she's serious. The attendant nodded once, like she'd made a decision. Okay, I'm going to resolve this. The woman smirked, already victorious. She looked at my mom and said sweetly fake, Don't worry, you'll survive an economy. My mom's hands trembled. Mine clenched. The attendant walked away toward the front. And that's when the woman did the most shocking thing yet. She slid into the seat directly in front of my mom, turned around, and said to her friends, Just stand here. They'll move them in a second. Like we were furniture. Like the decision was already made. My mom whispered, barely audible, Maybe we should just... I shook my head. No. Sit. Breathe. Because something told me the crew wasn't walking away to fix this the way Karen thought. And when the attendant came back, she wasn't alone. The lead crew member walked with her, and the energy in first class shifted instantly. The friendly tone was gone. This was the voice they use when someone has crossed the invisible line and doesn't realize it yet. Ma'am, the lead attendant said, calm but firm. You need to stand up and move to your assigned seat immediately. Karen laughed. Actually laughed. Short, confident, like someone who's never been told no. Oh, good, she said, waving her hand. You brought backup. That'll make this faster. Just move them so my friends can sit. One of her friends suddenly found the floor fascinating. The other stared straight ahead, like she was hoping to disappear. Disappear into the carpet. The lead attendant didn't raise her voice. Somehow that made it worse. Those passengers are in their assigned first-class seats. You are not. Karen smiled, twitched. There's been a misunderstanding. No, there hasn't. You could feel the tension ripple through the cabin. My mom sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, like she was trying not to exist. I hated that part the most. Not Karen's entitlement, not the snapping fingers, but how small my mom looked again after just 20 peaceful minutes. Karen leaned back in the seat she had stolen. Listen, my friends and I were separated because of a booking error. We're not sitting in basic economy. I didn't pay all this money to be treated like this. The lead attendant tilted her head slightly. You pay for 3 basic economy tickets. That was the first real crack. Karen's eyes widened for half a second before she recovered. That's not what matters. What matters is customer service. And good customer service fixes mistakes. There was no mistake, the attendant replied. You selected those seats. Karen's voice rose. I selected them because there were no first-class seats left. Exactly. People around us started murmuring. Someone whispered behind us, Oh, wow. Another passenger shook their head openly. Karen noticed. She straightened up, squared her shoulders, and switched tactics. My friend here, she said, grabbing one woman's arm without asking, has severe anxiety. She can't sit in cramped spaces. Are you really going to discriminate against a medical condition? The friend froze, eyes wide. I didn't say. The lead attendant cut in smoothly. If there is a medical need, we can involve our accessibility team. That does not include removing other passengers from paid seats. Karen slammed her palm on the armrest. Unbelievable. This airline has gone downhill. I know how to escalate this. And then she did something that made my stomach drop. She turned directly to my mom. You, she said sharply, you don't need this seat. Look at you. You're fine. You should do the decent thing and move. My mom's lips parted. No sound came out. Her eyes filled just enough to make it obvious to anyone watching. Something inside me snapped. She worked 60-hour weeks for 20 years. She paid for the seat. You do not get to decide what she deserves. Karen scoffed. Drama. This generation is so emotional. The lead attendant stepped slightly between us. A subtle, protective move. Ma'am, this conversation is over. You will stand up now. Karen crossed her arms. No. That single word sucked the air out of the cabin. No, the attendant repeated. No, Karen said again, louder. I'm not moving until this is handled properly. Call whoever you need to call. Mini twist. The attendant nodded. Okay. Karen smirked, convinced she'd won. The attendant turned away, not toward the cockpit like Karen expected, but toward the phone mounted near the galley. She spoke quietly, professionally. I didn't hear the words, but I saw Karen's confidence waver as the minutes passed. Her friends shifted uncomfortably. One whispered, maybe we should just go sit down. Karen hissed, do not sit. This is about principle. Passengers were openly staring now. Phones weren't out. Airplanes don't play with that. But eyes were locked in. This wasn't a private argument anymore. This was a spectacle. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your patience. We're resolving a seating issue. Karen beamed, like the announcement proved she mattered. The lead attendant returned, voice steady. Ma'am, you have two choices. You can move to your assigned seat now, or you could be removed from the aircraft. Gasps. Actual gasps. Karen shot to her feet. You would kick me off this plane? Yes. The attendant said, calm and firm, for refusing crew instructions. Karen looked around, searching for support. None came. Her friends stared at her, panicked. The audience she tried to control wasn't on her side. She pointed at my mom again. You, she said sharply. All this over her? The lead attendant didn't even glance at my mom. This is over your behavior. Karen's face flushed red. Fine. I'll move, but I want compensation. I want names. I want a full report. Of course, the attendant said pleasantly. Follow me. Karen grabbed her bag, muttering loudly about lawsuits and disrespect. As she walked past my mom, she leaned in and whispered, enjoy it while it lasts. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. Instead of stopping at the economy section, the crew guided Karen and her friends all the way to the very back of the plane. Karen stopped walking. No, she said sharply, planting her feet in the aisle. That's not my row. The lead attendant didn't miss a beat. It is now. The cabin was silent, except for the hum of the plane. Everyone could see it. Narrow seats. The last row, barely reclining, right in front of the bathroom. The exact opposite of first class. The exact opposite of what Karen thought she deserved. Her friends looked horrified. Wait, one whispered, we're back here. Karen spun around. This is ridiculous. You said I could move to my assigned seat. Yes, the attendant replied calmly. And due to your behavior, your assigned seats have been changed. Karen laughed again, but this time it cracked. You can't do that. We can, the attendant said. And we did. Then came the real twist, the part Karen didn't expect. Ma'am, the attendant continued, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. You were flagged during boarding because you attempted to pressure another passenger to surrender a paid first-class seat. That violates our conduct policy. Karen's face drained of color. This is not your first incident, the attendant added. A ripple went through the cabin. My eyebrows shot up. My mom looked at me, confused. Karen stammered. That's not. You attempted the same behavior on your last flight, the attendant said evenly. It's documented. Today confirmed the pattern. Her friends stare at her, not with loyalty but betrayal. You said this never happened before. One whispered. Karen ignored her. I want to speak to the captain. You won't. You'll take your seat or you'll be removed entirely. For the first time, Karen had nothing to say. She slumped into the middle seat of the back row, crushed between her friends, knees pressed against the seat in front of her. One muttered, I can't believe this. Not at Karen, but at the crew. As the attendant turned to leave, Karen called out weakly, bitterly, This isn't over. The attendant paused, glanced back, and said something I'll never forget. It is for today. She walked forward, past economy, past Comfort Plus, back into first class. Back to us. I'm very sorry about that, she said to my mom, voice gentle again. Thank you. My mom replied, still a little stunned. Thank you, the attendant said. For the record, you did nothing wrong. A man across the aisle gave my mom a thumbs up. Someone behind us whispered, Good for you. The cabin relaxed like a breath, finally released. My mom sat quietly for a moment, then exhaled and laughed. A soft, disbelieving laugh. I thought I was going to cry. I squeezed her hand. You almost did, but I didn't, she said. She reached for the sparkling water again, this time without hesitation. When the plane landed, we passed Karen on the way out. She wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Her hair was messy, her confidence gone. One friend walked several steps ahead of her. As we stepped into the jet bridge, my mom slowed down, looked back at the plane, and said something small but powerful. I think that was the first time I didn't give something up just to keep the peace. I smiled. First class lesson. This time, she smiled back.